online class. Okay, this is your social science teacher. Just get ready to hear my online class. Take page number 150, Unit 3, Climate and Natural Vegetation of India. You can see there are. Good morning, children. Welcome to online class. Okay, this is your social science teacher. Just get ready to hear my online class. Take page number 150, Unit 2, Climate and Natural Vegetation of India. You can see there are 4 objectives. Okay, just see 4 objectives are there. That is, number 1 is to describe the factors controlling the climate of India, to understand the characteristics of different seasons in India, to know about the rainfall distribution, and to study the different types of natural vegetation and wildlife in India. Okay, just see the introduction. Okay, I'll just read it out. We drink more water during summer and do not drink the same amount of water during winter. Why do we wear cotton or lighter clothes during summer season and heavy woolen clothes during cold weather season in North India? Why do not we wear woolen clothes in South India? This is because of the prevalence of varying weather conditions between North and South India. Okay, so in summer season we used to wear very lighter clothes, okay, cotton clothes, whereas in the winter we used to wear very thicker clothes, full sleeves like that, because we feel the differences in the climate of India. Okay, so whereas in I just wanted to know, just see the tabular column box. Do you know there is a question mark? Equable climate is also called as a British climate, which is neither too hot nor too cold. Okay, it will be very much neither too cold nor too hot. It will be moderate. The climate will be equal, all the time equal. So that is called equable climate. Okay, now first factor, let me teach you the factors controlling the climate of India. Okay, so the first factor is 2.1. just see the page. Climate of India is affected by the factors. There are 6 factors. Okay, I'll just tell you a very important 6 factors: latitude, altitude, distance from the seas, monsoon wind, relief features, and jet stream. Okay, these are the 6 factors affecting the climate. First, let me tell you about the latitude. Okay, latitudinally, India lies between 8 degrees 4 minutes north and 37 degrees 6 degrees north latitudes. The Tropic of Cancer divides the country into 2 equal halves. The area located to the south of Tropic of Cancer experiences very high temperature and no severe cold season throughout the year, whereas the areas to the north of this parallel enjoy subtropical climate. Okay, whereas in the latitude you will feel very hotter, the temperature will be high, and there is no colder at all throughout the year. Where the latitude falls, so wherever this latitude, the country falls in this latitude, you will feel very hotter every time and never be cold throughout the year. Okay, that is called the latitude. And the second point is altitude. What do you mean by altitude? Altitude means height. When the height increases, the altitude increases, the temperature decreases. Temperature decreases at the rate of 6.5 degrees Celsius for every 1000 meters of ascent. It is called normal lapse rate. Okay, it is called normal lapse rate. So wherever the mountains are very taller, wherever the hills are very taller, there the altitude increases. Okay, and where the every 1000 meters of ascent, it is called the normal lapse rate. Hence, places in the mountains are cooler than the places on the plains. Example here, Ooty, South India, Mussoorie, Shimla is written. Am I right? So where people used to go to Ooty, Shimla during the time of summer in Chennai or any other place. Why? Because the altitude increases over those places, so the temperature will be high and the temperature will be lower, and it will be more cooler and the heatness will not be there. So whereas in the plains it will be hotter in those time, but in Mussoorie, Shimla it will be very much cooler. Okay. Now the third factor is distance from the sea. A large area of land, especially the peninsular region, is not very far from the sea, and this entire area has a maritime influence on this climate. This part of the country does not have a very clearly marked winter and the temperature is equable almost throughout the year. Areas of central and north India experience much seasonal variation in temperature due to the absence of influence of seas. Okay children, so distance from the sea is from the subheading itself you can understand what do you mean by that. Distance from the sea means it is very farer, where from the sea when it is farer it will be very much cooler, but whereas inside the part it will be hotter. Okay, the summers are hot in the year and winters are cold. The annual temperature at Cochin does not exceed 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, so air near the coast has more moisture. You can see near the beaches where the seashore and all will be there, it will be very cooler that place. Moisture will be there, but whereas inside the peninsular region it will be more hotter. Okay, now about the monsoon wind. Monsoon wind, okay, the most dominant factor which affects the climate of India is the monsoon winds. There are seasonal reversal winds and sun rays are vertical over here. Okay, it is because of the southwest monsoon brings down the temperature of the entire India and causes moderate to heavy rainfall in many parts of the country. Okay, similarly the climate of southeast India is also influenced by northeast monsoon. So the monsoon winds which comes from the southern part, it will be brings cooler. Okay, do you know weather refers to the state of atmosphere of a place at a given point of time. Climate is the accumulation of daily and seasonal weather events of a given location over a period of 30 to 35 years. Now coming to the second last point, that is relief. From the word itself we can understand relief of India has a great bearing on major elements of climate such as temperature, atmospheric pressure, direction of winds and the amount of rainfall. So the Himalayas acts as a barrier to the freezing point blows from Central Asia and keep the Indian subcontinent warm. Okay, so the Indian subcontinent will be very warm because the air, the moisture which is coming from the Central Asia will bring the coolness and the Himalayan mountains will act as a barrier. Due to the barrier, the air coming from the Central Asia will not be passing through the Himalayan hills, mountains. So it will be like a blockage. So during that time it will not be more cooler. Okay, that is the relief season. Okay, so during this season Mangalore located on the coast gets the rainfall of about 28 to 80 centimeter, whereas the Bengaluru located on the leeward side receives only about 50 centimeter rainfall only. So there is a differences, and during the southwest monsoon areas on the western slope of the Western Ghats receive heavy rainfall. On the contrary, vast areas of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu lie in rain shadow or leeward side. Okay, coming to the last point, jet streams. Jet streams are the fast moving winds blowing in a narrow zone in the upper atmosphere. So it is very much you can think that the jet streams means it will be very fast moving. With the name itself jet, you can find it out how the jet planes are very fast moving. Like that the jet streams will be very much fast moving, and these streams will be at the onset of southwest monsoon is driven by the shift of the subtropical westerly jet from the plains of India towards the Tibetan plateau. The easterly jet streams cause tropical depressions both during southwest monsoon and retreating monsoon. So because of these jet streams there will be causing depressions. Depressions in the sense will be more rainfall will occur after these jet streams. Okay. Now the first factors I have finished. Now I am coming to the second factor, that is monsoon 2.2. Just look at this page. The objectives on the topmost, you can see the factors controlling the climate of India. Under this only the monsoon comes. Okay, 2.2. The word monsoon has been derived from the Arabic word mawsim, which means season. Originally the word monsoon was used by the Arab navigators several centuries ago. So from this word only the monsoon came. And the meteorologists have developed a number of concepts about the origin of monsoons. According to the dynamic concept, monsoon wind originates due to the seasonal migration of planetary winds and pressure belts following the position of India. Okay, so during the summer solstice, the sun rays falls vertically over the Tropic of Cancer. Therefore, all the pressure and wind belts of the globe shift northwards. At this time, so intertropical convergence zone ITCZ, it means also moves northward, and a major part of Indian landmass comes under the influence of southeast trade winds. While crossing equator, this wind gets deflected and takes direction of southwest and becomes southwest monsoon. During the winter season, the pressure and wind belts shift southward, thereby establishing the northeast trade winds over this region. Such systematic change in the direction of planetary winds is known as monsoon. Okay, now there are 4 seasons. Okay, number 1 is winter season, that is from the January to February. Second one is summer season from the month of March to May. And third one is southwest monsoon or rainy season, June to September, and northeast monsoon season, October to December. Winter season, coming to the winter season, what do you mean by winter season? From the topic itself you can understand, these are the vertical rays falls over the Tropic of Capricorn, which is far away from India. Hence, India receives the slanting sun rays, which results in the low temperature. So, India will be receiving only slanting sun rays. Slanting means very few, meager. So, during this time, the temperature will be low and the fine weather and clear skies will be there. Okay, in this time, South India general direction of wind is from east to west. Okay, and during this season generally occurs over the western Himalayas, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Western disturbances cause rainfall in Punjab, Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, and snowfall in the hills of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, now coming to the summer season. Okay, summer season, with the summer season itself we can understand what do you mean by summer season. The vertical rays of the sun falls over the peninsular region, hence there is a steady increase in temperature. When the vertical rays of the sun falling on the Indian peninsular region, the increase in temperature will be very high and the temperature will be very hot and dry in this entire country. So, weather over the land areas of the country is influenced by thunderstorms sometimes. During this season, temperature starts increasing all over the country, and by April, the interior parts of South India record mean daily temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. Central Indian land mass becomes hot with daytime and maximum temperature, reaching about 40 degrees Celsius at many locations. Okay, during this time, you can feel mango showers. See, you will be thinking and imagining why the mango showers are happening. What do you mean by mango showers? Mango showers means it is the pre-monsoon showers to west coast during the month of May. In the month of May, you will feel very hotter, but even though it's being hotter, you will be finding very rainfall will happening. You will be thinking why during the time of summer the rainfall has been happened. So it is because for the mangoes, to get ripening of the mangoes, the mango showers falls, which helps in quick ripening of the mangoes along the coast of Kerala and Karnataka. That is also called the nor'westers or Kalbai Psyches, are the local storms with thunder that blow from the northwestern part and rain lasting for short durations. It occurs over the north and eastern parts over Bihar, West Bengal and Assam during this month. So they approach the stations from the northwesterly direction. So it is very important. You should understand that what do you mean by mango showers. Mango showers means you should know that it is falls in the season of summer for ripening of the mangoes. Okay, now coming to the southwest monsoon or rainy season is very, very important. The southwest monsoon is the most significant feature of Indian climate. The onset of the southwest monsoon takes place normally over the southern tip of the country. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, just see the map, the left side of the map, southwest monsoon in India. The southwest monsoon in India, the waves coming from the Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal coming from the left side and moving towards the topmost Indian region. So it is the oceanic waves coming from the southwest, okay, and the rainfall will happen. Prior to the onset of the southwest monsoon, temperature in India reaches up to 46 degrees Celsius. The sudden approach of the monsoon wind over South India with lightning and thunder is termed as the break or burst of monsoon. The monsoon wind strikes against the southern tip of Indian landmass and gets divided into two branches. One branch starts from Arabian Sea and the other from the Bay of Bengal. So, from the bottom part of the Indian thing, you will be getting this monsoonic season. The Arabian Sea branch of southwest monsoon gives heavy rainfall to the west coast and western Ghats. The other part, which advances towards north, is obstructed by Himalayan mountains and results in heavy rainfall in north. Okay, this is very important as Aravalli mountain is located parallel to the wind direction. Rajasthan and western part don't get much rainfall from this branch. Okay, now Bay of Bengal branch moves towards northeast India and Myanmar. This wind is trapped by a chain of mountains, namely Garo, Khasi and Jaintia are mainly responsible for the heaviest rainfall caused at Mawsynram located in Meghalaya. Later on, this wind travel towards west, which results in decrease in rainfall. From east to west, overall about 75% of Indian rainfall is received from this monsoon. Okay, most of this India you will be receiving 75% of rainfall only with this southwest monsoon, not from the northeast. Okay, you should remember this very important point, that 75% of the Indian rainfall is received from this monsoon. Okay, now coming to the northeast monsoon. Just see the map of northeast monsoon. That is the waves are coming from the north side, okay, northerly side, easterly side, and coming to India, that is, it is going towards Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean. That is called the northeast monsoon. Okay, this southwest monsoon wind returns from Indian landmass and blows towards Bay of Bengal. The Coriolis force deflects this wind and makes it to blow from northeast. Hence, it is known as the northeast or post-monsoon season. This is also known as the post-monsoon season. Okay, so Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala and South Interior Karnataka receive good amount of rainfall, accounting for 35% of their annual total. So, large-scale losses to life and property occur due to this heavy rainfall. Strong winds and storms surge in the coastal regions. The daytime temperatures start falling sharply all over the country. Do you know Mawsynram, the place which receives highest rainfall, 1141 centimeter in the world itself. It is located in Meghalaya. Okay. Now coming to the distribution of rainfall. Coming to the distribution of rainfall, you should come to know that how much it is getting distributed, the rainfall in India. The average 2.3. The average annual rainfall of India is 118 centimeters. So, average is about 118. You should remember this very important point. Those black points are highlighted. That is very important. The average rainfall of India is 118 centimeter. However, spatial distribution of rainfall in the country is highly uneven. So, the western coast, Assam, South Meghalaya, Tripura, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh are the heavy rainfall areas which get more than 200 centimeter rainfall. The whole of Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, western and southwestern parts of UP, western Madhya Pradesh, the entire Deccan Plateau region east of Western Ghats except for a narrow strip along Tamil Nadu coast receive a low rainfall of less than 100 centimeter. So, the rest of the areas receive a rainfall ranging between 100 and 200 centimeter. Now coming to the point, natural vegetation. What do you mean by natural vegetation? Natural vegetation are nothing but the vegetation given to the population. That is from the trees you can extract so many vegetables, bushes, herbs and forbs. So these are called the natural vegetation. Natural vegetation refers to a plant community unaffected by man, either directly or indirectly. It has its existence in natural environment. Natural vegetation includes all plant life forms such as trees, bushes, herbs and forbs that grow naturally in an area and have been left undisturbed by humans for a long time. So, for a long time it has been undisturbed. These are called the vegetation which grows naturally. Climate, soil and landform characteristics are the important environmental controls of natural vegetation. On the basis of the above factors, the natural vegetation of India can be divided into following types. That number one is tropical evergreen forest. Okay. Number two is meanwhile later on I will be telling you. First, let me explain you about tropical evergreen forest. These forests are found in areas with 200 centimeter annual rainfall. So, the areas where the evergreen forests are Western Ghats in Maharashtra, and that is Karnataka, Kerala, Andaman Nicobar Islands, Assam, West Bengal, Nagaland, Tripura, Mizoram. And these humidity exceeds 70% in this region. Okay. And with this tropical evergreen forest, the important trees are rubber, mahogany, ebony, rosewood, coconut, bamboo, cinchona, cans, palm, ironwood and cedar. These have not been fully exploited due to lack of transport facilities. Now coming to the tropical deciduous forest. Okay, these are called the monsoon forest, where the areas with 100 to 200 centimeter annual rainfall. The mean annual temperature of this region is about 27 degrees Celsius and the annual average relative humidity is 60 to 70%. Similarly to the tropical evergreen forest, that is also 70%, and even for this tropical deciduous forest also 70%. The trees of this forest drop their leaves during the summer and early spring. Some sub-Himalayan region from Punjab to Assam, Great Plains, Punjab, Haryana, UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Central India, Jharkhand, MP, Chhattisgarh, South India, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala states are notable for this type of natural vegetation. So even our Tamil Nadu is also one of the area under the tropical deciduous forest. Teak and sal are the most important trees. Teak wood is very costly. Okay, so it is like a gold. It's like a very treasure. It's like a precious wood. Sandalwood, rosewood, kusum, maua, palas, haldu, amla, padok, bamboo and tendu are the other trees of economic importance. These forests also provide fragrant oil, varnish, sandal oil and perfumes. Okay. So this is a under the tropical deciduous forest. These are the important economic goods where they can sell it in a high amount, and these are the treasures and very much precious. Okay. Coming to the tropical very dry forest. Okay, from the word itself, dry forest, you can understand what do you mean by this. These are the found in the areas with 50 to 100 centimeter. So normal rate of rainfall is 119 centimeter. This is 50 to 100 centimeters, very much lesser. They represent a transitional type of forest. These are found in East Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Western Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and the Tamil Nadu also is included. The important species are mahua, banyan, amalthas, palas, haldu, kikar, bamboo, babul, hair, etc. Okay. Now coming to the desert and semi-desert vegetation. These are called as tropical thorn forest. Okay. From the word desert, semi-desert itself you can understand there is a place called Rajasthan and Gujarat, those places. So these are called the tropical thorn forest. Thorny it will be. So much of thorns will be there. So these are found in the areas having annual rainfall of less than 50 centimeter. Very hardly the rain comes in these areas. So less than 50 centimeter. They have very low humidity and high temperature. These forests are found in southwest, which includes West Rajasthan, southwest Haryana, North Gujarat and southwest Punjab. These are also found in the very dry parts of the Deccan Plateau in Karnataka, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. Babul, kikar and wild palms are common trees found here. Okay. This map I will be telling you after explaining all the vegetations. Now coming to the mountain or montane forest. Okay. These are the forests are classified on the basis of altitude and amount of rainfall. These are found on the slopes of mountains in northeast states. These forests found in the altitude of 1200 to 2500 meter. Just see the height of this forest. Sal, oak, laurel, amura, chestnut, cinnamon are the main trees found here. Oak, beech, silver fir, pines, spruce and juniper are the major trees found in the altitude of 2400 to 3600 meter. Okay, so it will be more height and during these because of this height, these vegetation will be available in these forests. The rainfall of this region is moderate. These forests are found in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Up to 900-meter altitude, semi-desert vegetation is found, and it is known for bushes and small trees. In altitude from 900 to 1800 meters, cheer is the most common tree. From 1800 to 3000 meters is covered with semi-temperature coniferous forest. Okay, now the semi-desert vegetation will be very much high altitude. Now coming to the alpine forest. It occurs all along the Himalayas with above 2400 meter altitude. These are purely having coniferous trees. Oak, silver fir, pine and juniper are the main trees of these forests. The eastern parts of Himalayas has large extent of these forests. Now coming to the tidal forest. These forests occur in and around the deltas, estuaries and creeks prone to tidal influences such as also known as delta or swamp forest. The delta of the Ganga Brahmaputra has the largest tidal forest. The deltas of Mahanadi, Godavari and Krishna rivers are also known for tidal forest. These are also known as the mangrove forest. So these are the rivers which are going through these forests, and it is very largest and tidal. These are called the tidal forests, or also known as mangrove forest. This is very important, children. So let me go up to the map of the vegetation. Just see the map, children. Natural vegetation of India. See, wherever the green is there, that is a tropical evergreen forest. It will be evergreen because of the sea this place, and those places are because of the Himalayan Himalayan air. Those are the green places, and the orange color is the tropical deciduous forest. Most of the Indian region is the tropical deciduous forest. Even our Tamil Nadu also comes under these forests. Then tropical dry forest, which is very much dry. That is the left side of the North India, that is the Punjab, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and in the middle part of the India, that is the very much dry. The amount of rainfall will be very much lesser, that is below the 50 centimeter. And the mountain forest, that is the light green color, that is the Kashmir place, the topmost India, the peak of India, that is the mountain forest, and the right side of the India. So, and the mangrove forests are the black in color, which are very much few. The mangrove forest is also known as the tidal forest. It is very much lesser. So, only the tropical deciduous forest are very much more. Okay. Now coming to the wildlife. Okay, 2.5. Just look at the page wildlife. After the vegetation, after the climate, number 1 is climate we learned, number 2 is vegetation, number 3 is about the wildlife. Okay, wildlife, the term wildlife includes animals of any habitat in nature. Wild animals are non-domesticated animals and include both vertebrates, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals, and invertebrates, bees, butterflies, moths, etc. India has a rich and diversified wildlife. The Indian fauna consists of about 81,251 species of animals out of the world's total of about 1.5 million species. So the wildlife here, it is about including both mammals, both the vertebrates and invertebrates. So in the vertebrates itself we can understand fish are the vertebrates, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals, and invertebrates are the bees, butterflies, moths. These are the invertebrates. So you can differentiate between the vertebrates and invertebrates, and the wild animals are non-domesticated also. Okay. So here the Indian fauna, flora means you can understand it's about the flowers, and fauna means it's about the animals. So in Indian fauna consists of about 81,251 species of animals. So our country is home to tigers, lions, leopards, snow leopards, pythons, wolves, foxes, bears, crocodiles, rhinoceroses, camels, wild donkeys, monkeys, snakes, antelope species, deer species, varieties of bison, and the mighty Asian elephant. These are the our country is about the home of these wild animals. hunting, poaching, deforestation and other anthropogenic interferences in the natural habitats have caused extinction of some species, and many are facing the danger of extinction. So it is very much illegal to hunt any wild animal, to poach any wild animal, to deforest the forestation. So it is the illegal in our country that we are not supposed to kill any animal, because it is very much precious. Even they have full rights to live on this world. Okay. Now coming to the Indian Board for Wildlife. This is the Indian board where if we kill one animal, it will be under some issue. So here the Indian Board for Wildlife, IBWL, you should understand the word code IBWL. It was constituted in 1952 to suggest means of protection, conservation and management of wildlife to the government. Similarly, how we have full rights to live on this world, to take breath on this world. Similarly, for the wild animals, for the birds, for flora and fauna also have full rights to live on this world. So based on that, we are not supposed to kill them and poach them and hunt them. The wildlife has been, brought the board. That is the protection for the animals, flora and fauna. The Government of India enacted Wildlife Protection Act in 1970 with the objective of effectively protecting the wildlife of the country and to control poaching, smuggling and illegal trade in wildlife and the diversities. To protect the country's rich and diverse wildlife, a network of 102 national parks and about 515 wildlife sanctuaries across the country have been created. If the sanctuaries and parks are not builded, the public of this India will be trying to poach them, hunt them and deforest the vegetation. So for that only the parks and wildlife sanctuaries have been created. Okay, so just see the map. I'll just tell you the wildlife thing. Biosphere reserves and wildlife sanctuaries. You can see World Network of Biosphere Research, UNESCO, wherever the green part. Biosphere reserves is the red color, and natural park, wherever the pine trees are there, that is the natural parks are there, and wildlife sanctuaries are the tigers, wherever it is. They are protecting the tigers. And bird sanctuaries, wherever the birds, if the birds are not there, we will not be able to take a breath also, because only the birds are there, plants are there, animals are there. Without that, it's like a recycle. Okay. And marine park, wherever the yellow part is there, that is the marine park. Okay, coming to the biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves are protected areas of the land coastal environments. The Indian government has established 18 biosphere reserves in India which protect large areas of natural habitat, which often include few natural parks with buffer zones that are open to some economic users. So do you know Project Tiger was launched in April 1973 with the aim to conserve tiger population in specifically constituted tiger reserves in India. Okay. Now coming to the biosphere reserves in India, 11 of the 18 biosphere reserves, that is Gulf of Mannar, Nanda Devi, the Nilgiris, Nokrek, Pachmarhi, Simlipal, Sundarbans, Agastya Malai, Great Nicobar, Kanchenjunga and Amarakant of India fall under the list of Man and Biosphere Program of UNESCO. Okay. So these are the important points you have to understand about the biosphere reserves in India. These are the reserves reserving the animals in these places to control the protection. So the summary now I am telling you is climate of India is labeled as tropical monsoon type. There are 4 seasons in India. They are winter season, hot weather, southwest monsoon and northeast monsoon. The natural vegetation refers to a plant community unaffected by man either directly or indirectly. Now, natural vegetation can be classified as tropical evergreen forest, tropical deciduous forest, tropical dry forest, desert and semi-desert vegetation, mountain forest, alpine forest, tidal forest. Okay, these are the natural vegetation you have to remember. With these names itself you can understand and write easily in the exams. Now coming to the last point, biosphere reserves. These are the reserves are protected areas of land coastal environment whereby people are an integral component of a system. So under this lesson you can cover up all this summary, and it is very much easier to understand. With the names itself you can understand what are the seasons, what are the vegetation, plant community, natural vegetation and biosphere reserves. Okay, with this I conclude the lesson. If you want, you can refer all the pages. Okay. Thank you children. Please try to learn the lesson very thoroughly.